welcome. We are the Silverline Tuesday. We had a Quentin Bedwell with us for a second, then he dropped back out, so maybe he'll rejoin in a little bit here. But we are the Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, writer of Wolf Hunter, Soul Ascendant, and blog person. Joined by one Mr. Jose Fuentes.
Yeah, I'm a long lost child.
Yes. And also joined by Quentin Bedwell.
Yes, I am not long lost, but Jose, you still are lost.
Yes.
You're still lost in this world.
In the words of Alexis on Fire, lost though you are free. And we'll be joined by Mackenzie Workman in a second here. So for those of you just joining us, we are a show that happens on Tuesdays. And we'll be talking about achieving aesthetic identity. Or in essence, how do you, as a comic creator or a team of comic creators, create the visual identity that makes your comic stand out or recognizable? If that's, a specific style, or perhaps character-defining features, what have you. And for those of you, mostly for Jose, before the show, I did share in the group chat a mandatory watch, which is the trailer for RRR.
Go watch it.
Yes.
Go watch it.
I must have missed it.
Yes. But it is, I believe, appropriately subtitled as India's biggest action movie.
Oh, my.
Complete with, I believe it's it's a dual story of a kidnapped sibling and the brother trying to rescue her while their other brother has betrayed them and has signed on with the British government during the occupation of India. And so it's about this brother having to fight his...
It's about one dude yeeting another dude into another dude.
A dude yeeting a dude into a flaming tree, snapping the limb off, and then another man grabbing that flaming limb and then beating another dude with it.
Sounds like a lot going on there.
It always is. Like, if you've ever watched the Bollywood action movies, they're always, I was just telling Tim, they're always so over the top. It's like, America, we're like very we try and keep it like within a realm of reality, right? And then you have like the Asian movies and whatnot, and they're all like cables and strings of flying in the air. And then you have the Bollywood action movies that and they're like, listen, we don't believe in any kind of like properties, like gravity doesn't exist. None of these things are possible in our world. They're not here.
The dude, yeah.
Physics, that's what it is. Physics don't apply to us.
Motorcycle driving towards this dude. He stomps on its front tire, so it does a kickflip. He grabs it and then uses it as a bludgeoning weapon.
Man.
I believe also there's the clip in there. It showed, I don't know who it's supposed to be, but I believe it's one of the older English baddies in a car as a tree falls and smashes the back of the car. He launches him up and a rifle from the seat next to him. Midair, he grabs the rifle, lines up a shot while floating. It looks amazing. It's on Netflix. I'm going to be watching that sometime this week.
I am now going to watch it after Umbrella Academy.
Yes.
Tonight. It should be on. It's on Netflix now, isn't it? RRR.
Yes, it is. So yeah, I might do that. I don't know. We'll see.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen.
Yeah. All right, but perhaps an appropriate segue in. We're talking about aesthetic identities, and Bollywood, especially Bollywood action, has a very clear aesthetic identity of just you want action that's like 50 times over the top. You're going to see it.
Right.
Yeah. So this is where I'm bringing something where you guys might have more input than I would, at least for establishing your style as an artist, and because that is in and of itself an identity, a visual identity. As a writer, you might just get a say like, oh, this character should wear this type of costume or should have this type of pouch or whatever. but usually it's the artist who will either create the character designs or at least the visuals of it that actually make that character stand out or give their own style, what makes it unique and recognizable. So perhaps just now on a artist level, do you guys think that you have a visual identity? Is there sort of like a style that you definitely fall into that like you're more comfortable with, or are you always kind of like trying to reinvent the way you do line work, or how do you guys do that?
I don't know if I do or not. I think I do have a certain style. I think everybody does. I know with every artist that I have seen, it's like handwriting. You know, you can tell different people's handwriting if you know, if you've seen their handwriting enough. I'm sure there's probably something, but it's hard for me to see.
I will say, as someone who has not only had you draw my work, but also has seen the stuff you've done, there's definitely like a signature Quentin Bedwell upper profile, like jawline and shoulders. There's definitely like a style that you get down.
Yeah, I would probably say that mine would be in the structure, maybe not in the rendering so much, but in the structures. Yeah, like the jaw lines. There's I think also brow lines too.
Yeah.
Like I think I may do my brows a certain way, but other than that, I don't really know if there's like a recurring theme.
Right.
It's one of those things like you know, you're doing it and you're staring at it while you're doing it, and you're staring at it so long it kind of becomes like you have to have somebody else really point stuff out sometimes,
right.
just because I don't know, you just become blind to certain things. And
it's kind of like the writer's joke is that when your readers tell you that you have a recurring metaphor, you just nod and say, yes, absolutely, I meant to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You know, I have to, a lot of times I think something looks really awesome or something, and I always like to double check, just like throw it by somebody that has absolutely no clue what I'm doing. And that way I know by their reaction, whether it's working or not. Because if they pause or take any time at all, it's like, yeah, something's not going on good right here. But as far as style, though, it's hard for me to tell. I would say yes in the structures, in the brow, the jaw lines. Yeah, I'd agree with that. But I wouldn't have noticed that had you not said it.
Perfect. Jose, do you think there's a certain, like, perhaps your own style in the way you render lines or do fleck work or anything like that?
So my favorite thing to do is basket weave. I don't really do a lot of it in my particular work.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love looking at basket weave. But that's just a side note. But I used to want to like draw in a more like cartoony style, very much like Aaron or
There's Mackenzie Workman.
Hello, Mackenzie.
The queen has arrived.
Yes.
MKW.
Yeah, very much something like that, but like it tends to come out a little more, I don't know, a little more comic-esque.
Would you say kind of like Humberto Ramos or
that is? So when I first
Campbell,
started drawing,
or
he was very much Todd Knock, very much my influences. You know what I mean? And how I did my art, and then
love Humberto Ramos.
Humberto Ramos does a lot of like bigger heads. You know what I mean? Like very like a stylized ears and hair and hands. Like he always draws like big hands, and I love that. But I never seemed to get that with my own style. So like I kind of started pushing it to the side, like feeling out to what works best for me. And my stuff tends to be a little not quite so cartoony as I wanted it to be, and it ends up becoming a little more like, I don't know, I call it like comic book, I don't know, like more like a comic book, like realistic kind of style, I guess.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's still comic book. It's gonna have feathering, it's gonna have some hatching and whatnot, but not so much exaggerated features.
Right.
Tommy Florimonte Jr. He does that kind of style as well. That's FLORIMONTE.
That's
He always
JR.
spells it. Yeah,
Yes.
Junior. Yeah.
Because we were talking about aesthetic identities. So this is like the visual identity, like either the artist's particular style, what makes them recognizable, or also the identity of the character or the subject, the features that might make them recognizable. So yeah, we just talked a little bit about the particular style of the artist. As a writer, I don't really have any influence on the rendering or the structure of my comic other than just like, notes given. So I don't really influence the artist as much as they do.
See, I feel like I'm a pain in the ass. I'm like,
I agree.
I'm
Wait,
Yes.
are we talking about
Hey.
art?
Oh.
hey now,
a rock star.
remember, I'm the queen.
Right?
Off with his head. No,
Sorry, I
I'm
interrupted
like,
you.
no, yeah. At least I got an apology out of it.
There you go.
No, like I said, it's more. I wouldn't say because writers can work with different artists and get a different vision. Like I said, I feel like anything. I've worked with Quentin a lot, so like I can see it's like his hand. It's like a handwriting. Like I can see when he draws something, and I'm like, oh, that's Quentin, and different artists. It's you can. I'm still a pain in the ass when it comes to my characters, and but I'd never have changed an artist's style. So it's kind of. I think we leave our handwriting in a different sort of way.
Yes.
Than the artist does.
Yeah, as writers, we definitely have more of a style in the dialogue, which would be a subject for another matter. As a painter, though, and as a man who does color, I do kind of have a style in just big blocks of primary colors. Or I appreciate edge highlighting. I appreciate guys who do like the really minute detail on that, but I like stuff that when it's put at the table, just it punches you in the face. Anyway, so kind of talking about that. Continue on to get some comments from the other artists in the room there before we get into perhaps the unique details of characters. But if you're following another artist's work, do you ever find yourself? You probably do notice their particular style, like how they render things or how they structure things. Like if you're reading a lot of comics, just going on a bench from one artist or another, you probably notice that like it has that through line. Do you guys ever find yourself seeking out comics particularly based on like that artist style, or like if you know that an artist's name, if there's an artist that you like their style or the way they do things, are you going to hunt down?
This is going to make me sound terrible, but like I don't look like. I don't go like, oh yeah, I really like them, I'm gonna follow them. But if I dislike something, I go, oh, I'm not gonna I'm not. Right. They're out. Like that sounds terrible, but like I know what I don't like. Yeah. And if I like it, then you stay in that. You stay in the ring. But if you do something I don't like, then you're kind of out.
Sure.
Yeah, if I like someone's art, actually, I try my best. As funny as it sounds, I try my best to like try and like deconstruct it, just so I can like figure out where their mind was and when they were working on it. Like, what were they?
Yeah.
Like, how did they piece this together? Like, okay, this angle is this way. Why is it that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I have sat there with my ruler on a comic book and like ruled out like the perspective. Like, did they follow the perspective? Like, is there a perspective there, or did they just like? Was it Andy Kubert has what he calls a Kubert perspective, which is whatever perspective he wants to make it look like, so that it fits in words. So we just spent 3 years talking about doing perspective correctly, and you're telling me I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I don't dissect it as much, but I know for me personally, I like really sketchy lines, and I like almost kind of like a loose fit. Like, I like it when like the pencils are still on the page and the inks don't quite fit over that, and the color doesn't quite fit in that. So like anything by like Ashley Wood or that has illustration by Ashley Wood or Rocky Kim, I have to pick that up because that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah.
I like I mean, like I said, Humberto Ramos, Todd Knock, those are two of my top. You know what I mean? Actually, I like was it Kenneth Rocafort? I probably obliterated.
Yes, he's good. He's another one that I follow. I love
yeah,
his.
He does pencils, and
his
it goes straight from like pencils to colors. I think.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even his work is very scratchy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like he did Extreme XMen, I think, and like I just loved it.
Yeah, he's done quite a few independent things too that I really liked. Yeah, I love his style. Love it. Yeah, I have to be careful, you know, when I look at any of these things that doesn't creep in. Like I try not to, but like Jose said, I do study it. You know, whenever I see, I mean, I have a lot of Terry Dodson books that I haven't even read just because it's Terry Dodson. Rockford, another one. Yeah, Kenneth Rockford, Humberto Ramos. Is that how you say it? There's several that I have. I've never even read the book, but I will pick that thing up and I will go through it and study it, look at the lines and how he rendered stuff and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, establishing the visual identity as an artist is something that just kind of happens naturally over time as you work. You can't really change the way you naturally do things because you're not someone else. But there are ways you can, improve or change things. So as we lost a cat knocked over a panel or a fence. We have a stray cat that'll just walk across the top of a fence, and he just knocked over a panel in our backyard. So you can't change your style, but you can, adapt, change things, learn new things. So as artists, do you guys find other artists that you are similar to, and try to study how they do stuff, or do you just try to like study as long as it's in your taste?
Well, again, it's one of those things where even though I might try to incorporate something, it doesn't end up looking like theirs. It ends up looking more like something else.
Yeah,
like,
it turns into instead of doing like a Victor Ramos like eyebrow or whatever, it turns into Quentin with a Ramos influenced eyebrow.
Right. It's exactly. Yeah, and even when I have actually successfully changed my style, it always seems to naturally, return to form.
Yeah.
So, so there's that. What about you, Jose?
I think it like I said, to break down someone's art, I think doing that, I'm never gonna draw exactly how how Todd Knock draws something. It just won't happen. But if I can see, like, say, the way he has someone's hand foreshortened, you know what I mean? If I can see how he did that, and then break it apart and put it in the blocks so I can see it, and like figure it out, then I can do it in my own style, using that same like principle, that force perspective. You know what I mean? So like, I don't feel that, for me anyway, I don't feel it necessarily creeps into my art. You know what I mean? As much as, because I'm taking, like, I taught myself how to draw. You know what I mean? Then I friggin' when I got old and then went to art school, so I had to like learn how to like piece it together myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I do that a lot, as opposed to like I don't think I ever read like How to Draw the Marvel Way, stuff like that. Like I didn't even know that book existed until I think my 20s. So
yeah,
but yeah.
So you don't really end up copying an artist's work, but it's more so you end up reverse engineering some of their
right.
Yeah.
And that's anything though. you know, doing stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's the same way with writing too. I mean, it's but you know, I've said this in the past before too, is that, you know, there's certain things like if we're talking about painting, you can paint fire. You can paint, you know, lots of different things, you know, power effects and make them look like the way they look in real life. But when you get down to pencils and inks, so that's, you know, you're dealing with lines. Now, how do you translate something like fire to lines? You know, so
line weight.
yeah, you may see. Well, there you go. You have to kind of sometimes look at other artists, or you don't have to. You can come up with your own way of doing it. But a lot of times, what'll happen is you'll see, man, this guy's really doing a fire that I like. You know, that I really like how he added this effect or that effect. And sometimes it's colorist. You know, you see how a colorist does it, and it's pretty amazing. And you know, you might incorporate that. You know, because we're talking about stuff that, you know, sometimes you do kind of have to reinvent the wheel, or you kind of have to second guess how you're doing it because it's just not working. You know, so there's that aspect of it as well.
So kind of falling along the same lines as the identity, the visual or aesthetic identity of the artist. Jose, you mentioned that you taught yourself to draw, and then later in life had gone through art school, which seems to be more and more so, you know, the case for a lot of people that, well, economically it almost makes more sense than doing it straight out of high school, but also, you know, people are realizing that you can get careers in creative spaces, so they feel like they want to go back into
there is
that.
no way I would have made it through the Cuber school had I went directly out of high school.
Right? Yeah.
There's no way.
Oh,
like
no.
I know me. I know my attention span. I know my mentality.
Yeah.
The logic of doing it
Ew,
and
not
focusing on
Aaron.
it completely changes when you get older.
So
and also joined by Aaron Humphrey.
It's Earn.
Hey now.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody has to be nice tonight, don't they?
Aaron, did you watch the mandatory homework in the group chat?
No, what was the mandatory homework in the group chat? I saw a trailer. What was it?
RRR. India's biggest action movie from Bollywood.
I know I saw an action movie from Bollywood that starred Shahrukh. I can't remember what it was called. It was intense.
Yeah, this one it's a new movie. It's out on Netflix now, and it looks like it's gonna be insane. Yeah. Anyway, you're talking about visual identity mode, but Jose, do you think that your visual identity? Did you say that it would have changed going into and coming out of the Cupid Screw? Did it evolve? Did anything change at all, or did it just like you add new layers to your already existing?
I think I added new layers because there's a lot I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going in, and I went in like I said, from high school, I would never have. I'd have had a chip on my shoulder, all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But like being older, I went in with like I want to absorb as much as everyone is going to tell me. And I had classmates that had a chip on their shoulder. I was like, okay, I know you're young. You know what I mean? Like you've not worked in not so much in the business, but you've not worked in the real world to be able to appreciate what we're getting here.
Yeah.
And so like that, I feel that helped me to like, you know, really absorb everything that I was taught and like incorporate it into how I do things. Like I wouldn't have understood a lot, like everything I did, like when I did traditional inking at the back, you know, before I went to art school was all like pen and some croco, not so much brush. But like I didn't understand or grasp that you can use like different textures and techniques, you know, spattering stuff on there and stuff like that. Like that changed how I looked at my inking work, and that changed how I looked at my coloring work because I knew there was a better way to color than the way I was doing it because what I was doing was very redundant. You know what I mean? Like doing the same thing over and over again to get the effect that I know could happen easier.
Yeah.
And so like I said, I sat there and absorbed everything. I took notes, man. I filled the notebook up with everything, especially for like digital stuff. Like I still have that notebook.
Nice. And Quinn, we were discussed on the show how you have your day job in illustration and design for marketing. Do you think that your style has evolved coming out of that? That is your marketing style strictly the result of all your other creative styles influencing that, or has it bounced back and also influenced some of your other creative things? Have you cross-pollinated your styles there?
There is, I think, probably the biggest thing that my marketing, my day job has added has been versatility. Versatility and working the muscle, keeping it going. And every now and then I can kind of use my job to experiment some. Yeah. So there's that. As far as really affecting it outside of that, I don't really think so, because I would not do a mascot the way I do a superhero for a comic, just because, for one, it's gonna look too cool. I mean, I'm just saying, like, people that aren't in comics, they don't get it, sometimes, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. There, a lot of times, they're looking for their mascot to be a classic looking mascot,
right?
Not something they'd pick up in a comic book or something that looks really nice, that's got all the rendering and all the detail. They'd be like, what is all these marks? And some, there'd be quite a few people that really appreciate it, but the people who matter, who are buying it, they're not, they just don't really get it. So,
the ones who pay the bill.
Yeah. So, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of aspects of it that do add, and I'm able to experiment. I'm able to work the muscle, keep it fresh, keep it going. But, for the most part, I'm pretty tame when it comes to stuff I do at my work, because, you really have to do what the customer wants. And if they say, hey, I want, and a lot of, as far as versatility, I have to do different styles. Like, if they show me a picture of something and they say, hey, we want it just like this guy, then I have to be that guy. For however long it takes me. Or if they say, hey, we want this fully digitally painted like a movie poster, I have to do it like a movie poster. And all of a sudden I'm like a movie poster painter. And or a lot of times, we want the WB style, or we want the Hanna-Barbera style on this. So I have to do that, so versatility, it's added a lot of versatility, and that has helped my art a lot. So I'm very blessed to have the job that I have.
Yeah, cool. And Aaron, before we move on to the next half of our subject there, as a artist, one who does illustrations, would you say that you have, over time, developed your own unique style? Maybe what that kind of looks like, and what things could have influenced that, or may have helped you evolve that, or change that over time?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of who was an influence on me.
Besides me.
Yes.
Well, bad influence. Good influences.
Yeah.
Besides the late great Ralph Bakshi.
We don't want to get into Aaron's checkered past or any of that.
Man, I don't know. I did like Joe Madden growing up, and Jim Lee.
Love him. Yeah.
I think the old Ninja Turtle comics were an influence on me as far as aesthetic.
Definitely see that. Yeah.
I did like a lot of the Alien Legion done by Larry Stroman. I'm thinking of old stuff I kind of grew up with. I used to look at those a lot.
Yeah.
Appleseed was a big influence on me, as usual. Akira to a degree. Yeah. Yeah. I was really into anthropomorphic comics like Usagi Yojimbo and the Ninja Turtles and stuff. And so, I don't know. But a lot of times I would just draw and then put my stuff aside and try to remember what I saw, so I wouldn't always copy verbatim. I didn't really want to do that. Saturday morning cartoons were a huge influence on me.
So
yeah, I don't know. Beyond that,
You can definitely see definitely get a lot of like the TMNT and the way you kind of structure things, but then like in the way you rendered your colorings.
Yeah.
I definitely see a lot of like these Saturday morning cartoons influence on that.
yeah. That's the kind of I like that sort of coloring style
Yeah.
of the cartoons.
Definitely.
So,
all right. Well, we'll step into the next half of the subject here. For those of you watching, and remember last week we did experiment with a shorter timed episode, and that does seem to work out better both for the analytics and also for our editors when they cut it down to a podcast. So going forward, episodes of a Tuesday show will be between an hour and a half, depending. So
sorry, Jose. It came from the top.
Yeah, we'll be giving
Listen,
Jose
they
his
cut us
own
off,
after
Jose,
show.
and I can just keep on
Yes.
talking and arguing. It will be fine. They'll
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, when they give us the Star Wars trivia episode, that's going to be a 5-hour show.
At bare minimum.
At bare minimum, yeah.
I was like, they were lucky I was sick on Star Wars Day because, listen, if I
Right?
would have got in there,
Yes.
I could have talked at least 5 hours about Darth Vader and Hayden Christensen, just,
Yes.
as a warm-up.
Yeah,
As a warm-up,
yeah. I will say, most recent episode of Kenobi, hiding the fact that Hayden Christensen is older now is hard, but the man's acting skills have definitely improved. It was very cool seeing him on screen again.
Yep.
But it's one of the things where you see it like, the prequels were 20 years ago. So
Like fine wine.
Yeah. Also, Ewan McGregor does not really age all that much either.
He's a vampire.
Yes.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's one of
No,
those.
he's Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus, that's also true. So speaking, I guess, of iconic character designs, another facet of the aesthetic identity of comics is the unique character designs, because everyone usually has a character when you see it, you as a child, you go, "That's freaking cool," and then you glom onto that forever. For a lot of people, that is Darth Vader. Very iconic design, very much the aesthetic identity of Star Wars for a while.
Okay, I gotta go. Be right back.
All right. Yeah, there you go. So I know for me,
He didn't want to get compared to Darth Vader.
Apparently, I know for me, comics wise, that is for sure going to be Cable. When I saw his design in the late '90s, I immediately fell in love with it and had to get all of the Cable comics ever, and all the toys and see him all the cartoons. And every time I play Marvel vs. Capcom, he's always on my team.
Can't fault that.
Yeah. And I'm so pissed. So for those of you who also are longtime followers of the podcast, of the streams, there's an ongoing theme where every time I go to our local barcade, I go to the claw machine and I get a comic-based action figure. This last time I went in there was another Cable. It was the Technovirus arm Cable with the blue jumpsuit.
Oh, nice.
But it was in the corner past the drop-off point where the claw could not go because it fell the claw when also doing it. There's no way I could get to it. I was so bummed.
Man.
You could just...
Right.
No one will notice.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, it is a barcade, so there was already some alcohol involved, so I'm sure it may not be the worst thing attempted there.
Right.
Yeah. I'll pass the question on to you guys. What are some examples of like a character's design or like the aesthetics of them that you think we already kind of making Kenzie's answer here? But
I don't have one.
But I heard their design or their aesthetics you be glommed on to.
The answer to all her questions is Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
I'm like right now, right behind my screen is my life-size Darth Vader just staring at me as I'm talking. So like, yeah. Maybe that one's my favorite, but I'm not
Ryan
sure.
Reynolds movie where his pets were telling him to kill people? Right? That's how I envision Mackenzie's day goes when she's on the computer. She's sitting there typing. Instead of like offering to try and get you to kill people, it's all like, "What's up, girl? Like, how you doing, girl?"
Yes.
And she's just like, "What's up, Darth?"
What up?
If I could point to a character like you're talking about, there's a couple, like you said, Cable.
Yeah.
Man, I was a huge fan, and I could not believe that he didn't really do a whole lot more. And I mean, really make waves. There's a couple of them. Number one was Deathlock. Loved his character design. It was way before, and then eventually Spawn. Because to me, Deathlock and Spawn, I mean, it was just natural, even though, I mean, Spawn has no cybernetics or anything, but, it just.
But the aesthetic of their face, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the way they're drawn and whatnot.
Deathlock, also Death's Head, too. I like Death's Head 1, but that's another one.
I like Death's Head 1.
That's another one I could not figure out, how is this guy not like huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider, another one. And especially whenever Todd McFarlane started, putting him in like Spider-Man when he was doing his Spider-Man run. Loved the Ghost Rider in there. But I don't know why, but I always tend to go that direction. Like, I don't know why. It just looks really cool to me. I guess, it's just a thing with me.
Yep.
I am clearly a child of the 90s because I liked Midnight Suns Morbius.
Yeah.
Where he had like the gothic, like all the belts and straps and whatnot on his costume.
Yes.
It's Morbin time.
That's right, Morbin time.
Doesn't he say that in the actual
I saw
movie?
that. That was hilarious. No. There's a Twitter thing, or was it Twitter or Instagram or whatever, where Jay Leto? No, wrong person. Whatever his name, Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Where,
Jared Leto.
He's sitting there. Was it like his significant other or whatever is like asking him like what does he got and crap like that, and he has this like script in his hand. He like the camera kind of pans around to see it, and it says Morbius 2.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes. It's a meme that doesn't stop giving.
Right.
But Aaron, we were talking about now the aesthetic identity or the unique identity, the designs of characters or things in comics that make us glom on to that character, that story, that whatever.
And we talked about how I don't have one.
You don't have what? An identity? Or...
No, I don't have a character that I identify with.
I think he was just using that to take a shot at you.
So like we're talking about characters that we identify with or like visually like or whatever?
Visually kind of going to like when you see it, you're like
if you saw their silhouette, you know who they are, and like, that's
because comics is very well known for having characters like when you see it, you immediately glom onto that. Like that's me with Cable, but for a lot of people that is, when they see like Wolverine and the brown and gold with the claws, they're like me, like that's my guy. I love that. Yeah,
I think that's why I like Loki so much, though. Like, I just think Loki has I nowhere to Darth Vader level, but like I think Loki has like a really powerful silhouette.
Yeah. Also, he just carries a certain amount of swagger to him.
Yeah. I was always.
But is that the character Loki, or is that friggin' Hiddleston?
No. I mean, like the way that Tom Hiddleston's pretty, but no, like that. I think it's like when you see there's not many silhouettes I look at, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. Besides, Darth Vader, and I can catch, as we know, Hayden Christensen from a mile away. That's why when Obi-Wan looked up, and there was a man with a back turn, I was like, that's my boy. Didn't even see his face, but like I think Loki's silhouette is really, really cool. I think it's how they went
about the one with the horns and stuff. You mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I as far as like silhouette characters, I really like. I'm a big fan of Judge Dredd.
Mm-hmm.
I like Saragar from Alien Legion.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll show you guys an image of Saragar. Because I always thought he was
amazing.
He is. He was one of my favorite, and then of course, Jugger Grimrod, who is also one of my other favorite ones that I really liked. Did they have a good Jugger image? Because I actually incorporated a lot of aesthetics from
have they even really while he looks for that, have they ever really even done anything with Deathlock that anybody knows about? I mean, I haven't really picked up anything super new.
Not in quite some time.
Not He got the part of the most mainstream attention he got was getting featured in Agents of Shield, but
yeah.
But he hasn't really had any time in a run.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all remember this one, Cybernary by Dick Manabat. He did Cybernary. Did anybody remember that? It released as a half issue with Deathblow by Jim Lee. Dick Manabat, he didn't stay around long. He passed away not too long after he was working in there. He's got a really dark style. It's really awesome. But he had some pretty awesome Deathlock like characters too. That was I don't know if anybody. One of these days I'll show it to you. I had to dig it up, but. Did you find what you were looking for?
Oh yeah, I'm looking. I'm just trying to where. There's Saragar. Thought I had another picture. Where'd that go?
I wish we were having this conversation with younger me, because like younger me was like obsessed with like Speed Racer, and I don't think I could have picked Speed Racer as a silhouette, but definitely
I don't know.
Definitely pick that one out.
From conversation, or I sent comics from joining chat. No comic was like 7 was XMen. As a small share, the classic X-Men was what I got into that parlayed into X-Force. Like Cable, Nightcrawler with at the time the giant pointy shoulders, and even Cyclops with his like bandoliers of pouches for no practical purpose.
That was the time.
Yes.
Yeah. This is Saragar.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's in Legion.
Yeah, Legion, Alien Legion, and in fact, one of my characters in my Galleons is heavily inspired by Saragar, and that's Grimrod, Jugger Grimrod, which is one of my favorites.
Nice.
He was basically a pirate, and that's kind of all of them, all the other characters. But I just love Saragar as like the sort of blue, and this. I mean, I've seen silhouettes of him, and it just works perfectly. I mean, you just always know that guy. And so of course, I don't know, other aesthetics that I really like.
So I'll pass it on to this. So this is something that writers and artists usually have to work together on, because writers often create the world and create the character concepts that lead to these characters. But the artists, of course, actually create the visual design and put it to paper. But what do you guys think are some of the features, or you kind of like aiming for goal to have a like smash hit character is kind of it's a fool's folly. Like, you're not going to be able to like create the next Cyclops if that's your goal. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think of some of the features that like, or just some of the concepts, combinations, whatever it is that you aim for, that you think of when you're going to create these characters that make them stand out to yourself as the creator? Because I think that's the way to go about it, is to make them stand out to you first, because if you like it, someone else is going to like it.
That's a good question.
I mean, from design point of view, I mean, one of the things that we were taught was like, if you can like, I mean, we had mentioned about silhouette. If you can recognize the character from the silhouette, then that's a good thing. So like something that's gonna stand out and not just look like generic humanoid shape
Right.
like if you see a silhouette of Nightcrawler and he's got his hands up like this and whatnot, he's only got like 3 fingers, and you see the tail with him behind, you're pretty much gonna guess that that's Nightcrawler. You know what I mean? If you know
Right.
anything about even very little about X-Men, then you know that. You know what I mean? Or like you said, Wolverine standing there with his arm out and the claws, poking out. You're gonna know who that is. But there's some figures that don't translate well. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, like especially if you're creating your own first character and stuff like that, those are like aspects you should like look into to make sure that people, you're gonna recognize your character amongst a herd of other characters, and other people are gonna recognize it as well.
Yeah, I think design-wise, you want to do what you think looks cool. At the same time, you kind of don't want to do something that's already been done 1,000 times. But then there are aspects that you probably don't need to leave out. That is obvious that the general population and even yourself enjoy about certain said character. Like if it's a villain, yeah, you should do something original, but I mean, don't get so original that we don't know what we're looking at. I don't know how to really explain it better than that. I think it's kind of you got to be careful and really do that fine line between what is original and what. Anybody know what I'm trying to say here? It's
definitely a fine line. Like you wanna take on the inspiration of these classic a lot of classic characters that stay in the public eye, that are popular, and you're like, okay, I want mine to be popular, like these.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I don't want it. I want it to be original.
Yeah, you don't want to copy, but you don't want to go too far out where people are
right. And that's kind of Jackson kind of mentioned something that I think just dealing with localization there, something that aggressive that stands out compared to the rest of the bodies, like having like one or few details that are so like pop out that those are what draw your eye, while they can let the rest kind of sit in the realm of the mundane. So like designing Soul Invictus, or for Soul Ascendant. I want to have a character that look like a Roman legionary, because that's the design that everyone is saying 50,000 times, all the way from Ben-Hur to Gladiator. But turn the horsehair plume and a lot of the effects into like fire type stuff and give him a flaming spear and gladius. And make his armor scalloped as opposed to layered. So it's still design that's recognizable, but there's these aggressive pop out elements that make it.
I think sometimes also people overthink it. Like you necessarily don't need to change everything about it to make it unique. Like for an example, like I remember when I was approaching like Night Rise, and when I was first envisioning it, like the dark creatures coming in, I was like, yeah, like let's have it fire. And Quentin right away was like, hey, I want to do purple. And I was like, no, I want to do red and orange and all that. And even just the slight change of coloration like gave the story uniqueness. So it didn't have to change anything else about it besides a simple color.
Right. So who won?
Quentin.
Well, I did prove it though. I did.
You did prove it.
I did show her. And I had examples. So I mean, that this could be something different that gives it a face of its own. It still looks cool, and they're using fire. They're bad guys, and they're using fire, but at the same time, it's it's different color.
I dig that.
Yep. And Royal Airships asks, does the aesthetic of a character get suckered into archetype? Or is there breakout? Sometimes it does, especially if you're doing like a classic Cape Crusader comic. A lot of times archetype does kind of have a big influence on that. And I think, when you're dealing with a medium that is so... comics and their hero's journey have a very long and storied past.
Yeah.
So a lot of things kind of fall into the hero's journey in some aspect. And there are ways to play around that. I think.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, to what you're saying, we are like cooks in a kitchen.
Yeah.
The ingredients are already there. They've already been established, and people have cooked with the same spices for millennium. And you're not going to make up a new spice. You're going to have to use what is there,
Yeah.
And
there
to
was
your point.
Yeah, you can play around with it, like in creating Pastiche, where like you combine them in a way that is something that isn't really seen very often, or but every story's already been told. And the words of was it Dostoevsky? There are two forms of fiction: a man goes to town, or a man goes on an adventure. The addition, of course, that being the third great form of literature is Sharknado.
Sharknado.
Yes,
good stuff.
But there's you always play around things. I like to think that with Wolf Hunter we kind of played around with the tropes and made it kind of a disassociating visual personas from archetypes, so that's done very intentionally, given that it's a spies on a train story where everyone has to kind of blend in some way. Not there are still characters that have an archetype, but they get played around or danced with in the ways that don't actually lead into those archetypes.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying it the way I did because some people, that's just like such and such, and they kind of dismiss it, But what they're actually saying is, oh yeah, it's been done before. We know it's been done before. There is no new thing under the sun.
Yeah.
It's so I mean, people are a little quick, sometimes to be shallow.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the way. That's always going to be a thing too, right?
Yeah.
Just
I
like
think you could do some original character designs. I mean, you can get. I mean, I do think my character Crystal is pretty unique. The fact that from the waist down she has stone legs, and her hair is made of crystalline. So I do think there's some. I think people don't. I don't know. They get kind of stuck in what they want to do. What they like. Oh, I like this, and they want to do what they like, and so they just kind of copy or whatever. But I have seen people do some really original, unique characters. I still think you can actually do them. You just kind of have to push the envelope away from the aesthetically what is popular nowadays.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I mean, if you've been watching, you can tell sometimes, if somebody's been watching too much of this or that. Now, I will say that there is, it does creep in a little too much with some folks, but I mean, there's a lot of times where that's, people are just doing stuff and people pass it off, as when I think it's totally fine. I think it's original enough. I'm not even just talking about my own stuff. I'm talking about other people's stuff. People are pretty judgmental about certain things, that I really don't think they have a basis, you could say that about anything, that it's all been done. I mean, it's all been done.
I think people are quick to want to bust you out on something like people as a whole. They want, especially like the comic like fandom, the comic community, whatnot. They so desperately want to find where you're not doing something original that even if there's a little bit, like, oh, he did it just like this, blah blah blah. He's straight up copying. Like,
Yeah.
The comic fandom can definitely have its moments, especially they want everything. They want something new, but they want nothing to change.
Right.
Yeah, they want something they haven't seen before, but exactly like something else.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny how that works. But it's, some people, I guess they don't feel smart unless they're saying something negative sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Let's see. We're watching. So all stories are split between nostalgia, current affairs, and futurist. In like most basic terms, that's where you end up fighting a lot of routing of that, because if all fiction is escapist, you need a reality to escape from. So you're always gonna have that little bit of grounding and the nostalgia of the present or the future. And then it plays on that if it's
that's just getting the hell away.
Yeah, and then you have things that are like, is it optimistic? Is it pessimistic? Is it absurdist? Absurdist comics are some of the best. If you like French comics, there's a bunch of ones like that. So we are kind of winding out on time here with our new given time limit. So
what?
Yeah, no.
I know, dude. I know.
Yeah.
I'm putting in a call to home office tomorrow,
Nice.
Jose.
We did.
I appreciate that, sir. I'll sign that petition.
I did just resubscribe my Netflix account and open up RRR in another tab. And
Tim's already half gone.
I know. Before we go, we did get some news. The Tolkien estate has published another one of Tolkien's half-finished manuscripts. So there is now a new Tolkien book out today. So have to find that.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And now we're joking about
out?
Yeah, now we're joking how J.R.R. Tolkien has managed to beat out George Martin in terms of release schedule from the grave.
Man, that's good stuff. Yeah.
They're duking it out in Valhalla.
Yeah. Yeah, but any passing thoughts or ending thoughts on unique identities, favorite characters, the visuals thereof?
I really just have the question of why did we get this today when the last episode of Kenobi is tonight, and it's easier to stay up till 3 if we're doing 2 hours. But no,
you don't stay up till 3 on the regular?
What?
You don't stay up till 3 on the regular?
Listen. I've been trying to get a normal sleep schedule. It's not working.
Yeah.
You're speaking weirdness to me.
Me too. I've been trying to do it for years.
Yeah.
No, I just like during the summer I have a lot of dinosaur stuff. So like I try.
Oh yeah.
I try to like somewhat stay since I have to be on some kind of a schedule.
No. I get to go observe a service crew repair someone's HVAC system, so I can then write a blog post about it
and watch Umbrella Academy.
All right.
I don't think we have any on the aesthetics. I think if anything, I try to not have things influence me when I do my aesthetics. I'm even trying to think of my Gollins book when I did the aesthetics on that. I just like to make up aliens and stuff, and so I don't know.
No,
I mean,
right.
when I did my God of Lightning, instead of doing Thor or whatever, I just like what it was an actual bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
And I just went from there.
And for my book, I wanted something that wasn't the same as everything else. Like I made a gothic western, so like the guy was I know it's cliche and whatnot. He's a preacher and whatnot, but he's a preacher out for revenge. Like that was my first go at freaking creating stuff. And my first superhero comic I created was basically freaking any Marvel like character out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was basically New Mutants, but just one guy. And then now, like the one I'm working on now, I wanted something that just veered off away from everything that I had ever thought of and whatnot. So he's like a barbarian kid on like the Serengeti.
Nice.
He's a barbarian kid. That's funny. I doing that Halloween barbarian guy Knocked.
Knocked is great, dude. I love it every time you post something new.
I have some other. I do have some stories in mind, but there'll be single issue stories. I don't want to do a series, so they'll just be
right.
each story be one off.
Yeah, don't tell them now. We have a time limit.
Yeah, oh, no.
Right.
You have a time limit. Do you have to watch Obi-Wan? Take care of Grogu. I mean, Princess Leia. Sorry.
Princess
so
Grogu.
confused. My friend pointed
Listen,
out. He's
I'm
like,
just there
isn't
for
Princess
Hayden's
Leia pretty
space,
much
man.
like? My friend was watching. She's like, isn't this pretty much the Mandalorian except he's taking care of Princess Leia instead of Grogu? And I'm like, yeah, kinda. It's like, and then the whole series just kind of shot for me. I'm like, oh.
Well, in a weird way, Princess Leia actually has agency, whereas Grogu did not, for the most part, until the very end there.
I don't know. Is the last episode on tonight? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Disney is just giving us 6 episoders for a while. For Star Wars and Marvel. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yep.
the Miss Marvel thing 6.
They did that.
I need to catch up on the boys.
Like 8 episodes.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to catch up on the boys, and
it's a blessing and a curse in that our content now feels limited, but also gives us more time to get to all of our other content.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any other content besides
Yeah, we know.
yeah, we know.
Have you read the Charles Soule Vader comics yet, Mackenzie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have not, then that's your content.
That's like literally like when Roland was like, come to Silverline. I was like, okay, but the only comics I own are Darth Vader, and the only comics I continue to own are Darth Vader.
Yes.
What if do you like Darth Vader as a character, or is it just the fact that Christian?
No, I liked Darth Vader before I liked Hayden Christensen. I was like 4 years old, being like, I want Darth Vader.
Actually, if you have not read the novel, there's another novel called Lords of the Sith.
Oh, I read that. Yeah.
Okay, man, you are on your Vader content, yeah.
Please.
Yes, but I love the way Vader gets depicted in the expanded universe. He's just and when we are seeing that in Kenobi too, where he is just a powerhouse.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. And our last bits here. Where can people find you guys? What are you currently working on? What did you last buy at a gas station? Mackenzie, go.
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot. I've been doing dinosaurs. I haven't been doing anything besides waiting to watch more Obi-Wan Kenobi for Hayden Christensen and Darth Vader and all that good stuff. But you can catch me here on Tuesdays with these fine fellows. You can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook under my name or Wortman25, all that good stuff.
Jose.
You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram. I believe both under the same name. And I stay away from Twitter because it scares me. It's like the boogeyman. And I just finished up, well, not just, but I finished up doing inks for Obsoletes #1, and I'm working currently on inks for Cat and Mouse.
Okay.
I think it's 5. I have to go back and look at the number.
You just finished the inks for Obsoletes #1?
I mean, I didn't just finish. I'm just saying that I had finished those. And
I'm sorry, buddy.
I'm working on colors for Peter's The Last Witchfinder.
That's okay. Quentin lost my script today.
I
did.
My eye.
In the next few weeks, you might be getting a huge dump of crap from me.
Right on.
So there you go. It's not my problem anymore. It's all Jose's problem.
Bring it on. That's a reason to lock myself in the bedroom away from the kids.
Yeah.
That's what I did with Wolf Hunters. The second I got the go ahead, I just finished the entire series and sent it off to the penciler. Like, okay, here's. Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
And then I did this today.
Yes.
I like that Daredevil. Who is that supposed to be? Elektra's Daredevil?
Yes, Elektra as Daredevil.
Yeah.
That's kind of. Is she like an actual character, or is it people just that fan?
Yeah. Oh no, she's one of the characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jackson, it's great to have you here. Glad you found us. Be sure to follow around. We are live here every Tuesday And we next week is actually going to be
awesome.
Argentina's great. Messi is number one.
We also have a B team on Sunday.
Yeah, and
a C team on Wednesday.
Yes.
So just letting you know.
Yeah. Next week is gonna be a weird episode because we're going to be doing actually a game day episode to start off summer. So I'll be posting
another game day. Are we doing this like the last time?
It's going to be a new game in a similar vein. This one is free to play. You will need to download it to your phone or from Steam, depending on how you're playing.
Okay.
This one's it's called Be Funny Now, and it's a free to play party game where you're in the position of stand-up comedians trying to fill a prompt, and the rest of us vote on whether or not you succeeded or not.
I need to win my crown back from game day.
Yes. Yeah.
I actually have before I go.
You know, whatever like it makes you sleep at night. The crown
is
like
I'm telling you,
my head.
The first game day I was on, I won the crown, and then the second game day I lost it.
So I have this strange thing for aesthetics, and I have one question before you go, just because I torture, which is weird. Are we in at 9:30 or 9:10? Because I have 9:10 on my clock here.
We are
supposed to end at 9.
We end in between 9 and 9:30. I start us at 9 because that means we'll end by 9:30.
Okay,
we get really distracted.
So, is for aesthetic, a character's aesthetic. Do you guys have a favorite time period of overall aesthetics, or any time period you hate? To me personally, I'm a big fan of the 80s. Because I grew up in the 80s, but I like 80s aesthetics. I'm not a big fan of the.
Then
90s.
I hate 80s aesthetics.
Really, and I'm not a big fan of the 90s character aesthetics. I wasn't.
I feel like for like an opposite vein, or a similar vein, the 90s are my go-to because that's what I grew up with. So I love the big pouches, the giant guns, all the weird cybernetics that serve no purpose. But also I do love late 80s, early 90s synthwave, like that whole color scheme.
Yeah,
so good.
I thought you were talking about the music synthwave.
Both the culture.
Well, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, the music, the color palette, the psychedelics.
I mean, the music makes everything cooler.
Yes.
One of the reasons I love to watch Stranger Things, and it's like one of my favorite shows, is because of the heavy 80s stuff.
See,
that's
that's funny you should say that, because that's exactly why I did not like it. I felt it was too shoved down my throat.
Yeah,
I
really like it.
Yeah,
what I like about it is they go, and it's not. See, when we were in the 80s and you saw a child's bedroom, it didn't look like an 80s bedroom, honestly, to me. But like when you see rooms and stuff in this, there's paneling and there's like it's not all dressed up. You know, it's like in a trailer. You know, that's what I remember from the 80s. You know,
I think the thing that kind of got me with the 80s, with the nostalgia in there, is I remember for the first season, like every room they're in, they had a poster of Jaws and all these 80s properties. And the thing is I'm like, yes, those properties did come out in the 80s. Yes, we enjoyed them, but none of my friends had posters and stuff of these things. It was like, how do you say, we liked them, but we weren't, I don't know. It didn't feel like there was like the fan wave that is today. I mean, people liked, my friends played with G.I. Joe and played with Transformers. They weren't decorating their walls with Transformer stuff. Maybe their bed sheets. I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't remember my friends ever.
Star Wars stuff. And then my mom whooped my butt because I used permanent marker.
Oh, and you deserve that.
Yeah.
No,
I think that was kind of one of the things. Like, I remember one of the episodes later on, I didn't see the full episode, they sang like the Never Ending Story song. And it's like, I'm a huge fan of the Never Ending Story. It's one of my favorite movies, but I don't remember many kids and stuff talking about it when I was growing up in the 80s. I didn't remember more people talking about it after the fact in the 90s.
Because his girlfriend wouldn't help unless he sang it to her.
Oh yeah, I know the theme.
He sang it to her during band camp or math camp.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I heard the scene they were singing, but I'm just saying it's weird because I was like, I remember it's a show I talked to my friends, but it was like much later. It's like, I don't know how to say this. When people do nostalgic stuff, sometimes they get so heavy-handed with it they kind of warped the reality of how it really was back then. If that makes sense. It's like, yes, this stuff came out then and it was popular then, but I don't remember people living with like Jaws and posters and toy all over the place back then. None of my friends did that.
They're not like, I don't think they're trying, because you lived in the 80s. They're not doing it necessarily for you. But for me, who did not grow up in the 80s, if I see a Jaws poster, I can pinpoint what the decade is, because I'm like, oh, okay, I know what year that came out in.
So you're saying
because it came out in the 70s, they missed the decade.
Well, like my dad would
triangulate the viewer.
Yeah, like they're trying to like, you guys would look at that and see the panels and see that and go like, oh yeah, this is totally an 80s bedroom. I've never seen an 80s bedroom, but I've seen a Jaws poster and I know what year Jaws came out. So it's like, okay, this will resonate with this generation, and we're trying to hit different age groups. So like,
well, Jaws came out in the 70s.
It also depends a lot.
The 80s.
It also depends a lot on where you were from.
Yep.
And what your experience was, because like all the stuff you're saying, you didn't have these posters and those posters. I did know some people who did have like Kiss all over the room.
Yeah.
And I'm talking boys, and you know, and later on Bon Jovi, like crazy.
Well, the band posters.
So what we're saying is that instead of using elements of a realistic representation, they're using a aesthetic identity to silhouette the concept of the 80s.
Yeah,
correct.
I guess. I mean,
Well,
I don't remember a lot of
people on the internet.
Yeah, I remember like a lot of my friends had band posters and other stuff on their walls. I mean, that was true. I don't know. I mean, it was weird because I'm honestly just thinking when I grew up, because I grew up in my young childhood and early teen years in the 80s, and when I watched that show, I'm like, it felt like, how do I say it? So I'm not picking on that show in particular. I'm talking about all nostalgia shows. It's kind of like they're constantly winking at you, constantly. Like, you know, it's the 80s, right? It's the 80s. See the Jaws poster? It's the 80s, right? It's the 80s. In the Dark Crystal poster, you see the Dark Crystal poster? It's the 80s. Did you see the D&D? 80s, right? 80s, right? To the point where, like, yes, I get it. Thank you. It becomes, and that's just a personal thing to me. It becomes too much to the point of like, and I'm not picking on that because there's other shows that have done nostalgia trips. Like some of the shows in the 60s and 50s have like, yeah, not everyone had the beehive hair.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a constant winking to it. To me, it gets in the way of the storytelling. I'm like, you don't need to constantly reference the 80s. I get it. Just tell the story.
Quentin, where can people find you on the internet? What do you have coming out?
Yeah, see, Aaron, you've brought up a whole other
conversation.
Trying to get us off here. I mean, you're running us over budget. It's $1 million a show, Aaron. Come on,
it's 9:17. It's not 9:30 yet.
So anyway,
the head honcho is going to come on here and blacklist all of us.
You can find me on Facebook. I think we're going to be kickstarting Trump's #3, which is a book that I did, Pencils and Inks, and so I've kind of been keeping my head toward that, doing some promotional stuff, like stuff for stretch goals. I'm kind of trying to think of different stuff to do for stretch goals. So you'll be able to find pretty soon some of my stuff on Kickstarter. Other than that, you can find me on Facebook, find me on DeviantArt, although I don't really post a lot there because a lot of my stuff's top secret now. I can't post a lot of it. Yeah.
What happens when you're famous?
That's right. When you're famous. Okay. But that's pretty much it, though. And you can just Google my name and see some old stuff that I'm ashamed of.
Yeah. All right. We have been That's Silverline Show on Tuesday. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll be back next week. We'll have the Wednesday crew here at 8 p.m. Eastern, as well as the Silver Sunday crew here, 8 p.m. Eastern as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see you all next week. But until that time,
make mine
Silverline. And don't forget, by the way, don't forget that.
Hi, my name is Sergio Cariello, and make mine Silverline.